Gold Cup about to get serious. 8 teams enter, 4 teams leave. Quarterfinal time in the world's most prestigious tournament. Named after ABBA's greatest hits collection. Canada have been kicking ass and taking names. Mexico, a bit like one of the most recognised music bands in the region, reuniting after a hiatus, trying to get into sync. Panama have been perfect, as have our USMNT B-boys. Best of times, or worst of times, to be candid. Almost Timu USMNT, the understudies, won against some pretty poor opposition. Yes, it's been hot Tillman summer, but we played without creativity, real striking options, or certainty even in who's on number one, or the passionate fans following us like in the days of yore. A fight-filled Costa Rica awaits in Minneapolis Sunday night, and to break it all down, it is a joy to welcome a gent who's represented the United States, soared in Liga MX, and has become the broadcaster I want to listen to on ESPN and on Vamos, on our very own Men in Blazers media network. It is a joy to see the pride of Connecticut. Yes, it's Mr. Herc Gomez.
Raj, my man, how are you? I miss you, man. I feel like I've seen you all over touring the US, so it's good to see you here.
How have I not run into you at an airport? Because you too have been going hotel to hotel, barbecue joint to barbecue joint. But man, you've been F1ing, you've been NBA hooping, you've been soccering.
I'm UFCing right now in Las Vegas.
When I think about you, I was like, your Marriott points must be through the roof.
They are. It's funny you say that. It's funny that we've not run into each other. I was in Dallas and you were in Austin, and then I went to Austin and you went to Dallas. Like, we keep missing each other.
Dodged a bullet, baby. But we got better things to talk about. We got football, the Gold Cup knockout rounds. They really are our moment of truth. Sunday night, our US boys rumble against old foe, Mexican coach Miguel Herrera. I love that man, that singular bundle of CONCACAF Klopp-esque passion, and his Costa Rica Chargers Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Fox in Juicy Lucy Land, Minneapolis. And we'll break this game down in one moment. This conversation will be done with a spirit of true love for the game of football in the United States, true love for the United States men's national team. But these are strange times. We are 349 days away from a World Cup on home turf. This team, I've got to be candid, we'll talk about it. It's in the shadows right now. It's completely off the media radar. So we'll talk in a spirit of love, but I think it'll be tough love that I think the moment warrants. So let's dive in. Big picture, Herc. 3 wins for our US boys to follow that tailspin of pain, 4 agonising home losses on the trot for Mauricio Pochettino. But these wins, I think in your UFC, seeing as you're UFC man now, I mean, they've been against tomato can opposition. I think that's what you say in that ring. We clipped a truly ragged Trinidad and Tobago, scraped by a weakened but quite CONCACAF-y Saudi Arabia. And we're in a real fist fight with 83 in the world Haiti. We've won, but we're not really convinced. So let's start with some joy. Who's impressed you? Who's caught your eye, other than the players we know and love like Chris Richards and Tyler Adams?
It'd be difficult to just single out Chris Richards and Tyler Adams because they're supposed to be the guys who catch your eye, right? They're the true and tried veterans and leaders of this team, and they would be starters if the A-team was here. That's a reality. But the A-team isn't here. So you've got 9 legit starters that aren't on the field. You've got 20-plus European players that could be here at this Gold Cup that for whatever reason aren't here. 20-plus. That's a lot. You've got 15 Major League Soccer players who are, majority of them, getting their first taste of international tournaments with a handful of camps heading into this camp. So when you're trying to draw comparisons or trying to draw anything really of value, you got to take it with a grain of salt. That said, a guy who was heavily criticized because he couldn't put it together at the international level like he was doing at the club level is Malik Tillman, massively at the club level. He went to Rangers. He did well at Rangers. In their domestic league, in their Champions League, in their Europa League, whatever the play was, he was doing well. He goes to PSV, and when everybody thought it would be Ricardo Pepi, Chucky Lozano, Serginho Dest, who was going to capture the attention of everybody down in the Netherlands, he breaks out. Double-digit goals and assist production in his first season, and he matches that with a Player of the Year for PSV award in his second season. And now we're hearing that Bayern Leverkusen, one of the biggest teams in Germany, wants his services for 30 million plus, and you're thinking, okay, but what about the national team? I've seen this before, and albeit it's the Gold Cup, but he's really coming to his own. And we have to give Mauricio Pochettino a lot of credit here, because Mauricio Pochettino, when he comes in to the U.S. men's national team, he sees, I see something in this kid. And he's grown in that confidence, and now he's putting it together on the field. And if I think of players who realistically could be a big part, in the 2026 World Cup for what they've done today with Mauricio Pochettino, I can't think of a reason why Malik Tillman would not be. I mean, Giovanni Reina, he might as well be in the series lost right now. I have no idea where he is. The Club World Cup's going on right now. They're about to play their fourth quarterfinal game against Monterrey, Rayados Monterrey, CONCACAF team, Liga MX. So I have no idea where Gio Reyna is, and we keep holding on to this version of Giovanni Reyna that I don't know if it still exists. And while we still try to look for that,
they're keeping him fresh for the final.
Watch out, PSG. So if we can't figure out what's going on with Giovanni Reyna, well, I think Malik Tillman's got a realistic start to crack this 11.
Let me dive in a little bit here. GFOP Gil Rutledge called this quite beautifully the summer of Tillmania, which I loved. And it's been fascinating listening to Malik Tillman say, ultimately, I've never had real playing time. But having this freedom, knowing this would be my team, my moments, has changed my mentality. It's given me room to breathe. The goals, the finishes have been honestly highlight reel. I've been after every game with Clint Dempsey, a man who knows good finishes in the US jersey. He's loved each and every single one of them. Mauricio Pochettino, also fascinating to listen to him after games, saying Tillman, one of the most talented players, one of the talent. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because to me, speaking to Tillman, making him swell with a bit of confidence, but he's also speaking to the players who are not in the squad by choice, I think, when he says that. But how do we know he's a real deal to really step up so that he can't be dropped anymore and is a real first-team challenger? Or how do we know that he's not just a flat-track bully?
I don't think he is. And I think, how do we know? I think the proof is in the pudding. If you're good enough to do it at that level at Rangers, and you prove yourself at PSV 2 seasons over, and a team like Bayern Leverkusen wants you, and you're still that young, and they're willing to pay that much money for you, that's all we ask of the U.S. men's national team players is if you get an opportunity abroad to prove yourself. And not only to get on the field, but most importantly, stay on the field. Malik Tillman's been able to do that in multiple stops. And to me, if you carve out a good career for yourself in one place, that's great. But if you could do it over and over and over again and in multiple stops, it's a testament to how good you are as a footballer, how strong you are mentally. And he's finally starting to put it together on the U.S. men's national team. I believe it was against Haiti. He didn't score the goal, but there was a ball over the top, and it was a ridiculous Zlatan-esque touch to bring it down. And he tried finishing it over the goalkeeper and missed by like 2-3 inches. But the easiness, of which he brings that ball down, and it has the presence of mind to try to lift it. It's second nature. He doesn't think about these things. Some players have that savviness on the field, have that finesse. Other players have to work at it. I think he has it. So that's how we know. But you got to keep it going. It's one thing to be the hottest player for the U.S. men's national team with a BC team at a Gold Cup. It's another thing to be asked to lead the line in a World Cup. But he's certainly making a case for it right now.
You talk about the 15 MLS players. I won't ask you how many you think will be like absolutely giddy and surprised that less than a year out from the World Cup, they've been given this almost Willy Wonka golden ticket to open audition for a World Cup place. Clint's losing his mind every game, because Clint came through 2005 in a January camp. He said, every time he was on the ball, he tried and destroy an opponent. He just knew he had one chance. He was going to show them he was hungry and was going to try and absolutely enforce his will every opportunity. Watching this US team, there's such a deferential style to the play. Almost nobody has stepped up and seized this moment by the throat. They've honestly, very little swagger, a lot of cautious football. Why is no one screaming, "You can't drop me again"?
Because they can be dropped, and they know it.
But they also know if they just have to beat one man, nutmeg one man, charge past one man. Wow, the fans are on their feet. They made a name for it. We're singing Jack McGlynn's praises because he scored inside like 9 seconds in the first friendly. Boom. Why is very few people followed his lead and said, this is my name, do not forget it, every squad I'm going to be in?
Mike Tyson used to say everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Clint Dempsey's an absolute phenomenon in our country, in the U.S. men's national team pool. But he'd probably be a terrible coach. And the reason I say this is because he'd ask himself, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you be mentally stronger? Clint's the exception to the rule. He is the Kobe of the U.S. men's national team. His mentality was so strong, nothing would faze him. Those aren't these players. That is not this generation. You've got players who are doing well and then have a bad moment against a Haiti or a Saudi Arabia, and they start second-guessing themselves. That's this pool. And I want to defend them because I think falling and failing is part of the process, and that is how you get better. But we can't expect this version of the U.S. men's national team, this pool of players, to take the brunt for the failures of the players who aren't here. And I hear a lot of this from the fan base, and I've been victim to it as well, fall into this trap. It's not fair on these guys because you're supposed to ease these talents along with the A team to see if they belong, not just going to put them out there and say, prove you belong. So when you're asked to do something or be someone, and you think you can be that someone, but the players around you aren't that someone yet, it's very difficult for everybody together to try to achieve something. It's very difficult to ask a Diego Luna to shine like he would next to a Tyler Adams, a Christian Pulisic, or a Timothy Weah if you've got players who are trying to prove themselves at international level. I think it's a tough ask. And I think sometimes we're asking too much of these players, and you're like, well, it's Haiti. Well, it's Trinidad and Tobago. It's Saudi Arabia. Haiti had, I believe, 9 of those players played in Europe. Only 2 of those players played in the States. One of them played for Philadelphia. The one played for the Switchbacks. You had a lot of players who were playing in Belgium. You had a lot of players who were playing in Holland. You had players who were playing in Ecuador's first division. I don't think you could take those things lightly. I think other teams in this confederation have found out that the rest of the region has raised this game as well. So you can't show up with a C team in this tournament and expect these players to just turn it on.
All I say is, God, fight without fear, boys. Honestly, this is your moment. Make us proud. But let's dive into the specific elements very, very quickly, because one of the flapping pieces of skin for the squad over the last 6 years has been the lack of an elite finisher. This is not a new problem, but we do have a new challenge in terms of answering it. Poch has really had no luck this summer. We've got to be candid. Flo Balogun arriving, but then having to leave camp injured. Damien Downs having a knock, and that left Patrick Agyemang for the last 2 games. The undisputed number 1 starter, unchallenged, should we say, and he's almost instantly become the pineapple on pizza of strikers. I'm fascinated to hear what you make of him, because many have lauded his hold-up play, his physical gifts. Others, I think, are frustrated. They say a raw, uncalibrated project who struggle with his coordination, even against these weak opponents. I've got to say, I love him. His story, his attitude, for me, is like American Beto. But striker to striker, how good is Patrick Agyemang? And has he shown enough to you to be in consideration for that third striker on the A squad role?
I'm a fan of pineapple on pizza.
Hey, that's probably the most controversial take of Hercules Gomez ever.
You know what's unfair to Patrick Agyemang? I love anybody who challenges the norm. The kid played USL. He took the road less traveled, D3. He went to a D1. He was drafted. He's from East Hartford. Like he things did not come easy. He was a late bloomer. He's proven himself. And whether you like his game or not, and albeit against who it is or not, he's scoring some goals. But he's also showing how raw he is. And how could he not? He just broke out onto the scene. He's just getting a taste of international football. So I don't want to be too hard on the kid. But I was thinking about this, Raj. A few days ago, it was the anniversary of the game in 2009 in which the U.S. men's national team snapped Spain's 35-game unbeaten run in the Confederations Cup. That Spanish national team won 2 European titles and a World Cup sandwich in between, and it was the U.S. men's national team that ended their run in the Confederations Cup. In that game, Josie Altidore beasted a center back. I don't recall if it was Sergio Ramos. Spun him like a top. Showed immense force, immense strength, poise, and composure to finish. And yes, Iker Casillas collaborated a bit, and he scores a goal. And the comments were Oh, Josie, that's when we had a real 9. I don't know if people remember when Josie was the 9, how criticized Josie Altidore was within the fan base. And this is the 3rd leading goal scorer in the history of the U.S. men's national team. It's always been a hot button. It's always been a topic of discussion. And that was a reliable 9. Patrick Agyemang right now is just as much of a chance as any other 9 because no other 9 has taken that chance. And it's the same thing. Ricardo Pepi's been the closest, and then he doesn't play, or he doesn't get an opportunity, or he gets injured. Folarin Balogun was the anointed one when fans spammed his Instagram, his social media, come to the US, be with us, and was labeled the next one. And he's had one moment, and it was in a losing effort against Panama in the Copa America. And that's it. Josh Sargent hasn't played too many games for the U.S. men's national team, but you have to ask yourself why. Always comes in injured, doesn't get an opportunity, and the few times he does, doesn't take advantage of it. Brandon Vasquez, I have no idea where he is. Daryl Dike is still on the mend from another injury. He's back on the field. Let's hope he stays on the field healthy. So Patrick Agyemang has just as much of an opportunity, but he's so raw. He's got intangibles that other players don't have, but he is so raw right now. I think he's realistically 4th on the depth chart. I think that's a fair assessment to him, but he's making the most of the opportunities he has right now, and he's proven to the coach day in, day out that he needs to be the starter in this tournament. So I don't really understand the hate towards Patrick Agyemang or what fans are asking of him.
So what is the depth chart for strikers right now, quickly, if they're all healthy?
I would go Ricardo Pepi, Folarin Balogun, Josh Sargent. Those are my 3.
Haji Wright.
Can I tell you something about Haji Wright? You know why I didn't include him as a 9? Because his club team doesn't include him as a 9. Because Mauricio Pochettino doesn't include him as a 9. And Greg Berhalter wasn't including him as a 9, even though he is the only 9 in this pool who scored a World Cup goal. And I know fans will say, well, he didn't know much about that goal. That's what being a 9 is about. Being in the right place, right time, putting the ball in the back of the net. I love me some Haji Wright, but for whatever reason, Haji Wright doesn't play as a 9.
I think when you don't know that you've scored, it's called an Agyemang. Were you the recipient of a goal where Diego Luna booted the ball and it hit your beautiful body hurt like it did the great Patrick Agyemang and went in and you get the goal? Would you have felt great as a striker?
I would have celebrated it. Tigres right now is a massive club in Mexico. We needed to win a game against Toluca my season at Tigres, and it was tied. And if we didn't win this game, we would still be top of the list, but we would have not qualified for Libertadores. And in essence, qualifying for Libertadores brought Andre Pierre Gignac and the revolution of players and changed what Tigres is today. Damian Alvarez, who's a legend at Tigres, comes down, shoots with his left. I turn my backside. It hits me on my right butt cheek and goes in. I was never credited for the goal. But the real Tigres fans, every time they show that goal, always spam my social medias. We went to Copa Libertadores because of your right butt cheek. So I celebrated that goal too.
Oh my God, you just reminded me of all the great goals José Zardes scored when his teammates smashed the ball right into his face on the line. God bless. That is the kind of striker we need now. How is José? José's probably still on our depth chart, is he, honest truth? And my God, bite your arm off for someone with the spirit, the energy, the ferocity, the sacrifice of José. At the other end of the field, my God, this combo makes me ache. The US has always been goalkeeper strong. Just have from the days of our founding fathers. And by that, I mean Tony Meola. There's always been like a biblical lineage that followed on the men's side. We've been so proud of them. But now we're kind of scratching around for a serious contender to be number one. NYCFC's Harvard lad, Matt Freese. Yes, the good 2 clean sheets. But let's be candid. He had, I think, was it 3 saves combined to keep them? You know, probably my mum. Arguably would have had at least 1 clean sheet in one of those games. God bless you, Val. And then a huge cock-up the first time he was really put under pressure, albeit by his own teammate, Tim Ream. Meanwhile, another Matt Turner, a man who cries out for playing time after falling completely into the backup keeper upside down. I'm not saying he has to watch people openly auditioning for the number one, but it can't feel good, Herc. How did we get here? Do we need to find another man named Matt, or can Diego Luna play in goal?
You know, if Diego Luna was bald, I'd say put him in the back of the net, because that seems to be the only formula that works for the U.S. men's national team. Think about this, Raj. Matt Freese, if you go down the depth chart of guys you think are supposed to be here, would be probably fifth in line. You would say Matt Turner, you would say Zach Steffen, Ethan Horvath, then you would say who else has been in the national team pool? Drake Callender, Patrick Schulte, and yet here we are. Matt Freese, who got his international debut not too long ago this camp, and is now the starting goalkeeper versus a goalkeeper who posted multiple shutouts in your last World Cup, who desperately needs games, and you're not going to give him games. Now, those fans would argue, oh, he's not being good. He doesn't play. He doesn't play. Matt Freese plays, and when he gets tested, he has a bad mistake, and it happens to any goalkeeper. But how did we get here? If I'm Matt Turner, I'm livid. I could be with my club team, who, by the way, just got relegated, Leon. You desperately need games at any level, and here's Mauricio Pochettino saying, nah, we're going to go with this guy. I have no idea who the starting goalkeeper is going to be in 2026. You don't have a reliable goalkeeper, and you will be tested. You know you will be tested, and you have no idea who the goalkeeper will be at the next World Cup. That, to me, is the biggest question right now for this U.S. men's national team, and a team that historically has produced top goalkeepers. If there was one position the U.S. men's national team, the American player, was known for, it was the goalkeeping position. And now we could say this is easily the worst generation of American goalkeepers that we've ever seen.
One of my proudest possessions, if I would hope this will never happen, my house was in a fire, but I would probably run to get this, is a Aston Villa t-shirt that says 40% of the world is covered by water, the rest is covered by Bradley Guzan. Still think Guzzi's on that depth chart. I bet you he thinks he looks on when he knows the squad is being named. You see, is the phone going to ring? Guzzi's still in there, baby. But God, there's one other player who is not getting minutes in the same kind of Matt Turner-esque way, and I think it's a plot point of the summer that everyone should be talking about, that very few people are talking about. And the question is, where's Johnny? This was supposed to be Cardoso summer, 23-year-old defensive midfielder. Generally, we've watched thrive in Europe to the extent that Atletico Madrid are reported to have paid $35 million for him. But what is he showing, Herc, or what is he not showing in training that Luca de la Torre and Sebastian Berhalter are getting minutes? And he's not. I think he's had 11 minutes so far in the Gold Cup.
He fell ill and dropped out of one of the games, but that's when you leave that door open, somebody usually walks in it, takes it. And I wish it was that easy, but I don't think it is, Raj. This is a player kind of like Malik Tillman, where he's done very well at the club level, and up until this last camp wasn't proving it at the international level. But I think it goes one further. Malik Tillman didn't have these grotesque errors. And unfortunately for Johnny Cardoso in his position, much like the goalkeeper position, if you have an error, if you have a mistake, it's coming right back down your throat and it's a goal against. This isn't just this go-around. Since Johnny Cardoso started with the U.S. men's national team under Greg Berhalter, under B.J. Callahan, under Anthony Hudson, whatever the case may be, he would get a little bit of a run and you just were left like wanting more. I don't know. This is why you're still hoping Tyler Adams doesn't get injured. This is why you're begging that something doesn't happen to him. Internacional in Brazil cannot be wrong. Betis in La Liga can't be wrong. Under that tactician of a coach, Tottenham Hotspur wanting to trigger a $25 million buyout, extension clause. They can't be wrong. And now Atletico Madrid paying 30 million euros. They can't all be wrong. So what's going on? Why is it he doesn't produce when he's on the U.S. men's national team? And unfortunately, I think it's mental. I think it's Johnny. I think he's blocking himself. He won't be the first player that's not done well at the international level after doing well at the club level. And he won't be the last. But it's up to Johnny Cardoso to get himself out of this hole.
Reverse James Rodriguez, is that what
there you go. That's what I'm really thinking this. I mean, I have no idea how to explain Johnny Cardoso because you look at him for Betis, you look at him in that complex system, how he plays, what they ask of him. He's not a goal scorer yet. Sometimes he comes up with big goals against Real Madrid. Sometimes he comes with big goals against Sevilla, which is it's a derby, it's their rival, and you're asking yourself, he does all the small things and he's adding things in the back of the net. He's so precise with the ball. He's so clean in possession. He covers so much ground. Look at how defensively well he does. And you're asking yourself, why has it been so bad with the U.S. men's national team? And I think it's Johnny. it's really just a mental block. There's no reason why you can't perform against Saudi Arabia or Haiti.
Mauricio Pochettino, what do you see when you see him? Because even when we score and the camera cuts him on the sideline, he looks frustrated. He looks underwhelmed. He almost looks like a man aware of the size of the task ahead of him. We're going to be candid. Reminder, the man is Argentinian. He knows what the Argentinian players do to represent their nation. They kill opponents. Honestly, they kill each other to compete to wear that jersey. They do anything and everything to represent their nation. And I know Mauricio is shocked that the American players, the big ones, the big names, do not feel the same for their national team. I know that was a massive adjustment. I think he's completely befuddled by that. He's clearly still adapting to international management as opposed to the club game. How do you think he's experiencing it all?
If I were Mauricio Pochettino, I would probably go into this thinking this is not what I thought it would be. This is not what I thought international football would be. This is not what I thought the U.S. men's national team program would be. He is of Argentine descent. There is an immense pride that comes with not just representing the country, but football in itself. Culturally, it is very different. And the thought of anybody not being able to represent their country for any reason, is probably above their capacity of reasoning. That said, the same coach who's taking his own liberties, the same coach who decided to leave guys off that probably could be here, and maybe he's doing it to prove a point. We could talk about Joe Scally. Joe Scally's easily a first choice right back on this team, a first choice left back on this team, a first choice third center back on this team. Austin Trusty, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Marlon Fossey. What happened to Lung? You know, like where did he go? There are 20 plus European players not here. And I'm not saying the MLS player cannot compete, but there are players who have put their time in multiple camps, put their time in Europe to prove themselves that they are of a different cloth, and they were excluded. Now, we don't know the reasons. Maybe he's sending a message, and I'm very eager to see the fallout. I'm very eager to see if this works. But Mauricio Pochettino right now is most likely thinking, this isn't what I thought it would be. And he's realizing how complex it is to be an international coach in CONCACAF, where things aren't always what they seem.
Do you make it sound like Jack Nicholson in Chinatown? And we all know how that ended. But I want to pick up on your point about the players not there. Because this is something that's been gnawing away at me really for the couple of weeks of the tournament. I adore this US team. I have dreamed with so many of you listeners, and we continue to dream. But these games have been, let's just say, unelectric. And so many of our big players are not here. Yes, some are on club duty. Others didn't show up. Others still, you've named them, were not picked. Josh Sargent, another one who wasn't picked. Austin Trusty. Joe Scally, as you say, Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think Poch was hoping that these MLS understudies would step up, carpe diem, play hungry, fight, struggle, do what he said, young, hungry, create a new culture around the team to almost to replace the one that he inherited, which speaking even to the players and those around the team, they all use one word. Everyone I've spoken to uses the word complacent or complacency. I think he wanted to change all of that this summer, and then he can pick and choose as to whom he invites back into the fold. But let's be honest, this team have not really brought it in the way he wanted. So what does he do now? Or how does it work? You understand it. You're a player. When he has to pick up the phone to, let's say, Josh Sargent or a Joe Scally or even a Yunus Musa, does he call them up again? Can he return to them? Isn't that awkward?
No, I don't think it's awkward. I think it's business. I think that's what a national team is. Your number is called upon, you go. And it doesn't matter what the history is there, what type of water's under the bridge. This is for your country. This is for an opportunity to play in the World Cup. You go. And nothing matters. It's about business and business only. I think Mauricio Pochettino understands that. Now, I'm hoping message sent, message received, and you can move on. You and I were talking about, and we've spoken about this at length a bunch of times. It doesn't feel like people are behind this team. It really doesn't feel that way. And I think we can both agree the U.S. men's national team is not given the people something to care about. They're not a likable team at the moment. This isn't a likable tournament at the moment. And when I say that is, back in my day, you play the Gold Cup, and that's all you would play. There was no Nations League. You're getting this second tournament whiplash, if you will, or fatigue, coupled by the Club World Cup and what that's been, and the images of Boca fans, River fans, Brazilian fans, Egyptian fans, Japanese fans, Messi, the heroics. And then you go, and I was at the stadium, Saudi Arabia versus U.S. men's national team. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, Q2 is amazing. Austin's an amazing city. What happened to this fan base? What happened to what this is supposed to be? It was an empty stadium. There was more propaganda for visit Saudi Arabia, than ex-players there trying to pump up the fans. And I say this because you go to a Mexico game, Karel Borghetti is going to be at a tequila stand, brushing it up with fans. Osvaldo Sanchez is there, doing the same thing. And it's like, here at U.S. Soccer, it's like, these guys are on their own. We just sold this. Now we're done. So fans don't have anything to get excited about. And in today's climate, I looked up the tickets. It's like $150 to get into that game. I wouldn't have paid $150 to get into that game. So at the moment, Mauricio Pochettino needs to figure out a way to galvanize the public, to get them to be behind this team. Because I repeat, they're not a likable team.
I want to pick up on the fan base thing, because I think it's super complex. It's super heartbreaking. But when you said people are not behind this team, I actually thought you meant some of the players, because the players are not showing up for this team. When the smoke is cleared on this summer, Mauricio Pochettino will know that he has been in the back and forth with Pulisic, which was much longer than it should have been, which thank God we don't have to talk about again. We've talked about that. We don't need to undo it and reopen. But he'll know that he was in a battle for control of this team. I'll say winning the Gold Cup will strengthen his hand. Not winning, it won't be hot seat time, but the optics are not great, let's be candid. But come the next international window, when he can call up hopefully everybody again, Weston and Tim Weah are away for Club World Cup duty with Juventus. Christian and Yunus Musa, the two big guns who didn't report. Do you feel he just invites everyone back in? Or does he kind of have to leave somebody out as a signal? And if so, who would you imagine that would be?
That depends on the result of this Gold Cup. If they don't win, where they bow out, and how much pressure that'll be on Mauricio Pochettino to get back the A team. And let's say he is trying to send a message. You've already sent the biggest message across the board, which is to Christian Pulisic. When Christian wanted to play the friendlies and you told him, nope, you're either all in, or you're out. And he was out. And then it became a public spat, and they both drew the line. So you know where that stands there. That could be the first chip to fall, but I don't think it will. I don't think Mauricio Pochettino has the luxury of that, nor does Christian. I think they both believe in where they want to get to and understand that they need each other. And knowing Christian Pulisic, he's not a difficult player when it comes to coaches. He's not somebody to a coach that's going to impose his will that way. So I think that'll be fine. But certainly if you put a target on the biggest player you have, the rest of the pool has to follow suit. So now if I'm a player like Joe Scally, if I'm a player like Austin Trusty, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Giovanni Reyna, I'm starting to see that, all right, the gaffer means business. Boss wants it this way, I got to fall in line, or I'm not going to be part of this.
I actually think I can see Yunus Musa didn't get a lot of coverage for not reporting because of the Christian calamity. That kind of smothered the owner. But Alexi Lalas never played again after taking time off. Landon Donovan, we all know what happened there. He paid a World Cup price. I would not be surprised if Yunus is given a window off as a sign of control for Pochettino and culture building and control setting. You mentioned the other, for me, really heartbreak story about this Gold Cup. The Nations League lost to Panama before it. SoFi was dead for the US game, and then 90 minutes later packed people were like the ticket prices, but the Mexican fans had
price them out.
them all up. Yeah, I mean, it's really remarkable. The greatest I think reason proffered in our mailbag is we hear this again and again and again. If the players don't care, why should the fans care? Which hurts her, because I'm old enough to remember World Cup 2010, which you were at, 2014. The United States fans bought the second most tickets at both of those tournaments after the host nation. And they charmed the world with their passion, their commitment, their everything. The question is simple. How do we get here where the US play? You talked about Austin. That's a 20,000 seat stadium. I think it's sold out for 80 straight MLS home games, right? At kickoff, it looked empty. You were there. But at kickoff on television, it looked deserted. Where did all the fans go, Herc? How did this happen?
Imagine what it looked like in Arlington. That stadium's like almost 80. And they put Haiti in the U.S. men's national team in Arlington. I have no idea why. Some would say because it's domed. And I would say, who are they? Dortmund? What do they need to, they can't deal with the heat. It's really to do, like, if there are any college students out there, your thesis should be on where it's gone wrong for the U.S. men's national team with their public. Because I'm old enough to remember, before I was on the national team, the slogan of the U.S. men's national team, or U.S. soccer in general, was El equipo de todos, everybody's team. And that's how they embraced other U.S. citizens who cheered for other teams. It was like, yeah, I cheer for this team, but that's my team as well, El equipo de todos. It went from being El equipo de todos, everybody's team, to nobody's team. Amongst the fan base who's lived through the end of the Jurgen Klinsmann era, the beginning of the Bruce Arena era, the failed World Cup qualifying to Russia in 2018, the hiring of Greg Berhalter and how he was hired, his brother Jay Berhalter being one of the most powerful individuals in the federation, how that came about, to this process with this U.S. men's national team and how they were gifted appearances and how we anointed them very quickly, the golden generation, and how if you take away Mexico, if you put Mexico out of the equation, they've not done anything of worth, nothing that the previous generations before them have not done. Actually, they've come up even shorter. To what happened at the World Cup with Giovanni Reyna, the Reynas, and the Berhalters, to the rehiring of Greg Berhalter, to the failed Copa America, to now, there's excuse my language, a lot of baggage. And the U.S. fan is just tired of being associated with this. I don't blame the fan for feeling how they feel right now. The disconnect between the fan base and the U.S. men's national team. The U.S. men's national team is supposed to represent you. If you don't feel like what you're watching represents you, well, you tune out. You don't go. You don't spend your hard-earned dollars. So I understand the fan base. That's how we got here. There's only one way to change that. Winning cures all.
I've got to say, this pains me, this whole conversation, because it does not have to be this way. We are in a dead wind right now as a program. A year out from the World Cup. If you put USMNT, I wrote about this morning in the newsletter, into Google News, the coverage of the team, the players, the storylines, is negligible. It all feels so small. I flew into Austin, and then I flew into Dallas, and it pissed me off. I didn't see a single US shirt on a fan on either of those flights. I fly to England often. Those flights from America are packed with Men in Blazers listeners wearing Premier League jerseys, going to go and watch, paying money to go and watch their teams in England. Football has matured in this marketplace. It used to be that the apex of being a football fan in the United States, you were supposed to just automatically be a USMNT fan. That's antiquated. Young fans, 16-year-olds, they've got real choices right now for their emotional bandwidth, their time, their money. Ask a 16-year-old who's watching a game through TikTok, where would they rather be? Would they rather sit by Boca fans, lighting flares, singing before kickoff, packed into an American stadium, noise, joy, pride? Would they rather be with Palmeiras? Would they rather throng in Miami with Palmeiras fans, Botafogo fans, Aurora Red Diamonds fans, act like they're in a Bing Bong video? Or would they rather sit in a empty feeling Cowboy Stadium? It's clearly the former, and that is the biggest challenge that everyone who loves the game has got to think long and hard about. Her.
There are people out there who say the U.S. isn't a soccer country, and I push back on that. It's not a U.S. men's national team country, and it's not an MLS country. If you just described what these fans are seeing, what they're experiencing, they're American citizens. They're in the U.S. They didn't 70,000 Argentines didn't just fly out for the Club World Cup to invade a beach. These are people you can convert, but you got to do it the right way. You got to make them feel represented. You got to make them feel like what they're watching, somebody is fighting for, they resonate with. And that's not been the case, Raj. There's only one way of making the people who wear these Premier League jerseys, who have other national team jerseys, who are citizens in this country, to feel like this represents me, this is who I am, this is what I want to be about. It's been a long time since the U.S. men's national team has transmitted that to the fan. The women do an unbelievable job. Unbelievable job. It's crazy. The U.S. women have Mexican national team fans who cheer for the U.S. women. They've got other countries who revere the U.S. women. Why? It's because they win. It's because they're likable. Because you want to cheer on Trinity Rodman. You want to cheer on Sophia Smith. The Megan Rapinos of the past. The Alex Morgans. You want to see these players. They're relatable. They're likable. The U.S. men's national team, they're in an uphill battle right now.
Chris Richards is one of the most likable and remarkable human beings. Tyler Adams is a remarkable human being. Patrick Agyemang, you've said his story, Diego Luna, they are there. They're all over that field. Smarter people, please God, than you and me will fix this. We've got to talk about Costa Rica. Team will clash with Sunday night. In Minneapolis, Minnesota. Why would you play there when it's not -12? I don't know. The team who will play hails from one of my favourite nations on the planet. Incredible coffee, volcanic soil, pura vida. What more do you need? Costa Rica, though, footballingly, won its 2 opening games of the competition. So Suriname 4-3. Then came from behind to beat a quite feisty Dominican Republic side. God bless you, the Dominican Republic. What a joy of a tournament. 2-1. Then drew against Mexico in their 3rd game. Finished level on points with El Tri, but second on goal difference. Herc, got to say, ravaged this team by suspension and injury. We were without 4 starters, including Spartak Moscow striker Manfred Ugalde, who's 3 goals to go along with his 2 yellow cards. For US fans who might not watch a lot of this Costa Rican team, give us a top line on how Miguel Herrera has them playing and what we should expect.
CONCACAF shithousery is what you should expect from Miguel Herrera. He's experienced as they come in this region. I actually think Costa Rica is a decent team, but you've mentioned it. No Manfred Ugalde, who's the leading striker. He's got 3 goals. I know they were all penalty kicks, but he is a dangerous striker. He plays out in Russia. He's a leading goal scorer in the Russian Premier League. He's not going to play. He's suspended. Yellow card accumulation. I believe Mora is out as well. Madrigal, a young player, got injured in the first game, won't be there. So they're missing a few pieces. That said, they are an experienced team at this level, a young team that is hungry. They got young players that are hungry, but it's an experienced team, and they're led by Keylor Navas, who proved against Mexico that he still has it, and he could very well still be the best goalkeeper in CONCACAF. It was ridiculous against Mexico.
It's incredible watching him. You may remember him, dear fans, as former Real Madrid star, currently playing his trade at Newell Old Boys in Argentina. He's 38 years old now. My God, in that 0-0 draw against Mexico, he was unbelievable. Not exactly the type of keeper the United States want to be facing in this game, because he's quite good. He's
ridiculous. In his time, he was the best goalkeeper in the world, or one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He's easily the most disrespected footballer of my generation. If you go into his history of how he left Real Madrid and how he ended up leaving PSG, you will understand what I'm talking about. But he is a player who continually proves himself, and much like, ironically, Christian Pulisic wanted nothing to do with the Gold Cup. Before this edition, he had only played in 2 editions, 2009 and 2011, and then thought it wasn't worth his time. It took more out of his schedule than he was willing to permit with Real Madrid obligations and so forth. But he's coming back because he wants to play in the World Cup, and he's leading the line. Listen, Costa Rica is physical. They will make this into a fight. They will punch, claw. They will do anything they need to do to get a win, to edge out a victory. Miguel Herrera sets them up in a 5-man back line, 3 center backs for Francisco Calvo that want to prove themselves. Martinez plays for New York City FC. Hit the crossbar against Mexico. Against Mexico. This is a dangerous team on transition. They're vulnerable, but I do not think it'll be an easy game for the U.S. men's national team. By no means. I think this is as close as it comes, and this is going to be a fight That is the word I would describe this, a fight for the U.S. men's national team.
Predict the US-Costa Rica score for us.
I don't think this ends well for the U.S. men's national team.
What?
Yeah.
You mean we're only going to win 3-0?
I think Costa Rica advances. I think this is a type of game that really tests the mentality, the fortitude of the U.S. men's national team, this pool, that really will show you if any of these players are up for that next level. And it's Costa Rica. I think physically they will impose their will. 0-0, 1-1, heading into extra time. And I think Costa Rica edge them out. I really do. I just see more. I see more fight in this team.
I hope you're speaking the dark scenario out just so we exhume it. I actually think we will win. We need to win, or at least not to lose. I think we'll make heavy weather of it. I think we continue to lack the pace, the sharpness in that final third. I believe we'll win 1-0. I see a Berhalter goal. I wrote this in the newsletter. Huge celebrations on the field. I'll take anyone. I'll take Jay. I think Jay's going to score it. No, I'll take anybody. Any Verholter. Huge celebrations on the field. The Pochettino grimace on the sideline. I can't wait. We've seen all these teams. Who's going to win the Gold Cup? The Cup of Oro?
If you were paying attention, if you're a betting man, the odds were plus 550 the day before the Gold Cup started for Canada. That would have been a smart bet. Canada is just a very difficult team. Let's take for Canada for what it is today. Okay, one of the better teams in CONCACAF. And let's look at the rest of CONCACAF. Mexico, a ton of questions. Raul Jimenez is all of a sudden that flame that he had right before the tournament is almost out. Luis Chavez, who is one of their starting midfielders, just tore his ACL yesterday. Lots of questions in the back line. Look at Panama. They're without their best player, Adalberto Carrasquilla. He's not here. Still a very well-coached team, but certainly the sum of their parts.
I can see Los Canaleros lifting a CONCACAF trophy.
They got to get past Mexico, and I think that's going to be a difficult task, something they've not been able to do. They can beat the U.S. in any tournament, but they've not been able to prove it against Mexico, so that's going to be difficult. They have to beat Mexico to get to the final. Canada has to beat the U.S. men's national team C team or this Costa Rican team that's still not proven it with Miguel Herrera to be at that level. I would take Canada.
I love Jesse Marsh. I adore him. If he wins the Gold Cup and the United States,
he's going to be unbearable, and I'm here for it. But look at the pieces he has at his disposal. Kone right now, who was the darling of Copa America in the center midfield, he's struggling to get back onto this team. Jesse Marsh has really made this team competitive. He's really made every position a battle. Jonathan David is in the midst of a potential life-changing transfer from all accounts to Juve, and he's here captaining his team. You got Kyle Larin, you got Olawasi, you've got players everywhere that can hurt you. I think this is a dangerous team.
I know everyone listening is like, if only Jesse Marsh was American and not Canadian. You can't change identity. He was born up there. He's been Canadian his whole life. We can't just claim him if we want.
What part of Canada is he? Is he Calgary? Where's he from? Ottawa? I forget these days.
The Wisconsin part. I don't know. Isn't that how it works? All I'll say is listening to you is a reminder that our region of CONCACAF has never been stronger. I do long for a Gold Cup time when this tournament is filled with a sense of self-love. I really, really believe this tournament can be gorgeous. It can be everything. It can be what we dream if we will it. But God bless Herc. Just tell us where we can find you because I know you're working super hard. Give the people what they want. How do they find some Herc?
Monday to Friday, ESPN Deportes, the show Aro Nunca. Monday, Thursday, Football Americas, ESPN Plus. And as always, every single Thursday on the Men in Blazers Network, a Vamos podcast. We are here. We just celebrated our 100th episode.
It's incredible. Okay.
I want to thank the Men in Blazers Network, you, Raj, for allowing this to happen. Memo Ochoa was our guest, which was amazing. And looking forward to more to come.
It's an honour of our life to work with you and listen and experience all this. God willing, we'll be back next week to preview the US men's national team semi-final and final. Just a reminder, I'll be on the Men in Blazers YouTube this Sunday night. Come and be with us at the final whistle of the US men's national team clash with Costa Rica, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for a live taping of The Deuce with Clint Dempsey. Until then, Herc, CONCACAF, it's not just a football federation, it's a state of mind. Big love to you. Thanks for being with us.
Anytime, Raj. Appreciate it.
Let's never take a second of watching football together for granted. Courage, vamos, and go USA.